The Whenuakura Ohu is one of 8 in New Zealand and probably the most inaccessible. The only way in is on this narrow track, which twists for about 7 miles alongside the Whenuakura River. The track hasn't always been like this. It was once a road, but it fell into neglect during the Depression, and most of the settlers in the valley walked off the land. Everything has to be carried in, and 60 pound of feathers is just as heavy as 60 pound of nails. Once the Ohu group get hold of a bulldozer, they plan to upgrade the track, but in the meantime they don't really mind the walk-in. They say it keeps them fit and sorts out new arrivals. The final hurdle is a suspension bridge, 240 feet long and 200 feet above the river. It's not a crossing for the faint-hearted. Many coming out to the Ohu for the first time have to be coaxed across the bridge against their better judgment. The new arrivals will bring the number on the land to 9, 3 men, 3 women and a couple with a 16-month-old boy. For some time yet they won't be living on the Ohu site itself, which is a mile back up the track. In the meantime they're still on a freehold block, which they got permission to use 2 years ago when an Ohu in the area was first suggested. The mentor of the group is Brother Francis, a Catholic monk who spent some time in an Irish monastery and with James K. Baxter at Jerusalem. He finds it hard to understand how politicians can criticise Ohu groups for not contributing anything to society.
After all, you could be running all sorts of things, making luxury products of no use to anyone, running a strip-free joint, if you like, anything under the sun, and you're considered productive. You come and work in the land, bring it in, get all your own basics from the land, and people talk about being non-productive. I'm afraid I just can't understand it, really.
Get in, Britt! Get in behind, dog! Come on, back here!
That's fine, come on the side. Just take care of the counters out the herd.
The group run about 40 head of cattle on their land. They did have 20 more, but some went bush and others died after eating ragwort, the yellow-flowered weed which has flourished in the valley since the land was abandoned. The group hope to control the weed with sheep. Like Brother Francis, many come to the Ohu prepared.
Most of them have had some experience of community, so that they're not running away with, that all the problems are going to be solved as long as we get back to community, we're right, They realise the difficulties, and it's interesting too that they all have come back to the point where they want a balance between community and privacy. There'll be a community centre where people have a meal together each night, have the libraries and so forth, children's playing areas, but they will have their own individual home. And I think this is very important.
What do people around the area here, the farmers nearby, think of the community?
On the whole, I think people are quite happy. People have fears. I think there's just the sheer fear of something new, the fear that people with too many problems might come in, the fear that here is an alternative lifestyle that may affect their children and their hopes and ambitions have got for them. I think, these are understandable fears. But we have found it's been tremendous because we've just been accepted as people as we are.
While the cattle are being fattened, the group's meat supply comes from the bush. This wild goat was slaughtered the hard way, the group had run out of bullets, and Dave had to bail the animal up with dogs and butcher it with a knife. When the group first arrived out here, they lived mainly on goat meat, supplemented with a steady diet of watercress. Only the goat's liver is eaten straight away. The rest of the carcass is hung up in a tree to make it more tender. Dave gets more pleasure from his craft, making jewellery out of old cow bones. He set up a workshop in one room of the abandoned farmhouse the group is living in. There's no electricity on, so everything is powered by a treadle. The work brings more than pleasure. It can earn the group about $30 a week. That's twice as much as their monthly grocery bill. The group also make money from possum skins and built their own drying hut from punga logs sealed with mud. What have you got to offer children out here?
Well, space, safety. You haven't got the same kids getting run over with motor cars, all that sort of thing. Education. I think there's nothing learnt more than close to nature. A community who can educate children. Not just a paid servant who's just there because he's getting, or very often because he's getting paid to do it. I think there's very much to offer them.
What happens to children though when they grow up? Do you think they'll return to the city, to the other life?
Well, for a time everyone rejects what they've had, but if it has proved its worth, they'll come back to it. If it hasn't, well, no one would want them to.
The way community life in cities is going, I don't think it's offering much for the children. In a place like this, you haven't got the security in money and in possessions, but you've got the security in people, friends that is, and the security of knowing that you can support yourself, with food around you and this sort of thing. People often ask the question about, what about happens in case of an accident? We do really need a radio out here, but if you had something really serious, even without the radio, you can ride the horse up to the nearest farmer in 20 minutes, and if it's really bad, call in a chopper to come in and pick somebody up. And so you're not really, you're not more than about 40 minutes away as it is from a hospital.
What about Christian's education? Who's going to teach him?
Good question. Well, I'm supposedly the qualified teacher in the group, but we'll start off with correspondence school, which is a good school for our children, and then when we get in getting ourselves organised, we'll when we've got enough children and enough experience, we'll try and establish a registered private school out here.
In the meantime, though, some of the adults have as much to learn about the rhythm of life in the country as the children. Anyway, they take the same delight in the processes of nature.
Here he goes.
He's trying his best though, look, his head's right up this end. He's definitely stiffer in the bottom there.
Beautiful.
Oh, you darling. You want to see what it's been living on? What is it, kid?
Who wants to tie the umbilical cord?
You don't tie it.
Yeah. Right, get out there and lay some eggs now.
Yeah, all now proud parents of a little chicken.
The lilies of the field, they neither sow nor reap, but God looks after each of them. Don't worry about your life and what you are to be. Your body and how you are to clothe it. For life means more than food, the body more than clothes. Set your heart on the kingdom of heaven.
You don't try and change the whole world, you change a little bit around you and hope it spreads. We're not doing any big things. So I think if people sort of think of us doing something big or thinking we're doing something big, they're on the wrong track. And even when we start to turn it into a philosophy, it tends to sound this way. So I prefer to be thought of just a group of people living a simple life and following on from there.